Yes, I asked for that name, Eugene Marie, for my father. Marie for her middle name. And she has my mother's name. The only one missing is my name. Nobody has that.
That's because we used to change from our baptismal names to any name we would like to choose. Now we've gone back to the baptismal names, if you want to go back.
Okay.
My baptismal name was extemporaneous. I was supposed to be a boy, and it was going to be Eugene after my father. But I surprised them and I became a girl. And so they didn't know what name to pick out. But it happened that the little flower of Jesus was canonized at the same time I was born. So they named me Anna Teresa after the little flower of Jesus. And Saint Teresa has been a very patron saint of mine all my life. Very close.
Interesting.
But they always called me Anna. I never got Teresa.
So I guess let's just start with just some of the events that stick out in your head that you've lived through now 100 years. But what are some like big events, obviously recent, I guess, with the pandemic? Is there anything that really sticks out to you and any story from that time that that stuck with you?
My early days were very adventurous. I was given acrobatic lessons from the age of 3, and seemed like every weekend I was performing for some church and winning some prizes for them, and I loved it. And the more I could do, the more I loved. And my first 13 years were happy weekends performing for other people. That I remember without a doubt. The next thing I remember was when Sister Aquilin, my Latin teacher, took me under her wing because I didn't have a mother. And she taught me all the things that teenagers should know. And one time she said to me, "Anna, have you ever thought about being a nun?" I said, "Are you crazy? Never. You'd never get me behind these walls." But she planted the seed. And this little one here had entered, and we weren't allowed to talk to them as the novices went by, but I did everything to distract her. But I saw how happy she was, and I thought it must be a happy life. Well, they'll never take me because I'm campus every week. But one day, Sister Aquilin says, "You better think about it." And I went to our Reverend Mother. I said, would you ever take me to be a Franciscan sister? You? You're campused every week? Why do you want to be a nun? I said, everyone that's a nun looks so happy. I want to be happy. And she says, well, we'll give it a chance. So she accepted me. And from that day on, my life has been a miracle.
And when was that you became a nun?
1942.
Or 42, yes.
1942. I was 17.
But you tell them how that helped you to be a good principal. You should explain how being mischievous yourself helped you to be a very fine principal.
Yeah, I told them I wanted to be a nurse. I did not want to teach. And when I went out on mission, they said, "Would you mind teaching for 1 year? We need teachers very badly." Here we go. I said, okay. And I was teaching kindergarten and first grade. And I fell in love with it. So I got my degrees in teaching. I taught for 11 years. The 1 year became 11. And from there, it went on from teaching lower grades to being principal. And I was principal, I don't know how many years.
22 in Tampa.
Yeah.
and 3 years in Long Beach, California.
Yeah. So my life has been one of this, and
So, when did you move to Syracuse? Because you said California, but when did you come to Syracuse or Liverpool specifically?
We came in 2016. I gave up driving, but you were still driving. And when you came up here, I saw all the hills and all the
one-way streets.
well, it was a mix-up compared to, we were in St. Petersburg, which is a very laid-back city, and it's very flat, and the driving is quite easy. And you come up here, and you said, I'm giving up.
Yeah, I gave up driving when I was 90.
You're 90. That's incredible. So I guess what, again recent, but the new Pope is American. Did you ever think that you would live to see an American Pope? And what is the significance, I guess, of having?
I think it's fantastic. Why not? We Americans are good as everybody else. And take the name of Leo. He couldn't pick a better name. I think he's going to be a great Pope.
And I talk about I guess what are some, you get to 100, but what are some challenges, I guess, that you've faced throughout your life that you had to overcome?
Challenges?
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems every day was a blessing, and you take what the Lord gives you and work with it. And if it's a challenge, you don't recognize it as a challenge. You recognize it as something that happens. I found my life being a very peaceful, joyful, wonderful life. And I contribute that to my family. My father was a loving father. I was a mischievous child. And he never hit me, never spanked me. He said, "Come here, come over here, sit on my lap." And I'd sit on his lap, and he said, "Now, would a good little girl do that?" "No." "Well, then, don't you want to be a good little girl?" "Yes." "Well, then you do that." And I would say, "Dear God, why can't he just spank me?" But he was a loving, beautiful, wonderful father.
And maybe you want to tell him what happened to Mother, offering all her sufferings in the hospital.
Pardon me?
When Mother was in the hospital for such a long, long time, she offered all her sufferings for her 2 daughters.
Yes. Oh, yes, the miracle of miracles happened. One of our sisters was going to be beatified in Rome, and our Mother General said, "I can't afford to send more than 15 sisters to Rome. So I'll put everybody's name in a lottery." All 500 got dumped in a lottery. And October the 3rd, I think it was, the telephone rang in my mission. And I said, "Yes? Who is this?" "Sister Eugene Marie." "Oh, we just pulled the lottery. And number 10 was drawn." So what? "And your name is number 10. You're going to Rome." I said, "I'm going to Rome for the beatification of one of our sisters?" "Yes." "Oh, well, okay." So wait a minute. We just pulled out number 12. That's Sister Emmeline.
500.
She's going to Rome too. Out of 500 names, number 10 and number 12 were drawn. I sat back and I said, "I know who pulled those names. My mother. Because when she died, I was 10 and she was 12.
Wow.
But that's not the end of it. The Pope said, I am not going to have the beatification on Pentecost Sunday. I'll have it on May 14th. And that was my birthday. So I spent my 70th birthday in Rome at the beatification of Mother Mary Ann. Miracle? There's a miracle every single day of our life, but you have to look for it. Sometimes they're like this, but sometimes they get bigger and bigger